The Indiana Fever's season was already teetering on the edge. Then came the injury news that sent shockwaves through the WNBA. Their rookie superstar Caitlin Clark, the face of the franchise and a beacon of hope for fans, was suddenly out, and no one knew when she'd be back. But what happened next? It wasn't just a routine roster change. It was a gamble, one that brought a polarizing name back into the spotlight and had the entire league talking. The Indiana Fever's season took a gut punch that no one saw coming. Caitlin Clark, the rookie phenom who had become the heartbeat of the team, was suddenly off the court, nursing a nagging left quad strain compounded by a groin injury. What started as a day-to-day concern quietly snowballed into a full-blown absence, with Clark missing 10 straight games and counting. It wasn't just Clark, either. The Fever's backcourt was unraveling before their eyes. Ari McDonald was already sidelined. Sydney Colson had been ruled out. And with every injury report, the roster felt thinner, the options fewer, the margin for error practically gone. On paper, the Fever still had enough talent to compete. But on the floor, the energy shifted. The plays looked hesitant. Without Clark's court vision and scoring gravity, opponents started pressing higher, forcing Indiana into mistakes they hadn't been making before. This wasn't just a health issue. It was an identity crisis. And in moments like these, a franchise has two options: panic or pull the boldest move in the book. With the Fever's backcourt depth collapsing, Indiana's front office had a decision to make, fast. They needed a guard who could handle pressure, create offense, and bring a spark to a team desperate for answers. That's when the call went out to a name many fans thought they'd never see in a Fever jersey: Odyssey Sims. Once one of the league's most electrifying guards, Sims had been away from the WNBA spotlight, her career marked by flashes of brilliance and periods of controversy. She wasn't the safe pick, she was the bold pick. The kind of signing that either reignites a team's fire or flames out in spectacular fashion. The news dropped like a thunderclap across social media. Some fans were thrilled, remembering her all-star seasons and fearless playing style. Others questioned the move, pointing to the baggage that had followed her throughout her career. But in that moment, none of it mattered to the Fever. They weren't just adding a player, they were throwing down a challenge to the rest of the league. We're not folding. We're fighting. Before we get into how Sims' return shook up the entire WNBA, do me a quick favor. If you're enjoying this deep dive into the Fever's high-stakes season, hit that like button. It helps more fans find the channel. And if you want more insider breakdowns, drama, and behind-the-scenes WNBA stories, make sure to subscribe so you never miss an update. The moment Odyssey Sims stepped onto the practice court in Indiana, you could feel the shift. She wasn't here to ease into a role. She was here to take charge. And that kind of energy doesn't go unnoticed. For the Fever's veterans, Sims brought a competitive fire that could push them to the next level. For the rookies, she was both a mentor and a warning. This league demands everything you have, every single day. But her arrival also raised questions. Would her aggressive style blend with the Fever's existing system? Could she mesh with stars who were already finding their rhythm? And perhaps the biggest question, was this move about winning now, or was it a desperate gamble? The rest of the WNBA took notice. Opponents who had written off Indiana were suddenly circling their calendar for the matchup. Media outlets started buzzing, and analysts debated whether this was the turning point for the Fever or the start of a volatile chapter. And as the first game with Sims approached, one thing became clear. Everyone was watching to see if she would deliver or explode under the spotlight. When game day finally came, the atmosphere inside Gainbridge Fieldhouse was electric. Fans weren't just there for a regular matchup. They were there to witness a moment that could redefine the Fever's season. Cameras zoomed in as Sims took the court, her trademark intensity written all over her face. From the opening tip, she played like someone with something to prove. Driving into the lane with fearless precision, dishing out sharp assists, and jawing with defenders, it was vintage Odyssey Sims. The crowd roared with every bucket, every defensive stop. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. A heated exchange with an opposing guard had officials stepping in early, a reminder that Sims' fire could just as easily ignite controversy as it could fuel victory. Still, by halftime, her impact was undeniable. The Fever were moving faster, hitting shots, and playing with an edge that had been missing for weeks. On social media, the reactions were instant. Some fans celebrated her return, calling her the missing piece Indiana had been waiting for. Others questioned if her strong personality might disrupt the locker room in the long run. Either way, one thing was certain. Odyssey Sims had turned the spotlight directly onto herself and the fever, and she wasn't backing down. While fans were still buzzing from Sims' on-court energy, things behind the scenes were a little more complicated. Multiple reports suggest that her return didn't catch everyone in the Fever locker room by surprise, but it did catch some off guard. Rumors say a few veterans were concerned about how quickly she was being inserted into the rotation, especially with younger guards already fighting for minutes. Others, however, saw her as the spark the team desperately needed, praising her leadership and fearlessness. Coach Stephanie White reportedly downplayed any tension, telling reporters that Sims fits right into what we're building here. But insiders claim that the adjustment period was more intense than the public realized. Sims' no-nonsense personality, while inspiring on the court, has sometimes clashed with teammates in the past, and now everyone was watching to see how it would play out in Indiana. The Fever's management, on the other hand, seemed all in. Signing Sims wasn't just about filling a roster spot. It was a statement that the team was ready to shake things up, even if it meant ruffling feathers. And while some fans worried about chemistry issues, others argued that in a league as competitive as the WNBA, a little friction might be exactly what it takes to push the Fever over the edge. For Caitlin Clark, Sims' arrival changes the entire dynamic of her rookie season. Before the signing, Clark was already logging heavy minutes, juggling scoring duties, playmaking, and the constant pressure of being the face of the franchise. Now, with Sims in the mix, her role might evolve in ways that catch both fans and opponents off guard. Some analysts believe this could be a blessing in disguise. Sims can handle the ball and absorb defensive pressure, freeing Clark to operate more off the ball, where her shooting range becomes even more dangerous. It could also give Clark more rest during games, reducing the wear and tear that's been a concern since her college days. But there's another layer. Clark's competitive fire is legendary, and sharing the spotlight, especially with a guard known for her bold personality, could either spark a powerful partnership or create subtle tension. The Fever are betting on the former, hoping that Clark and Sims will form a backcourt capable of dismantling even the league's toughest defenses. Strategically, this move signals that Indiana isn't playing the long game anymore. They want to win now. And if the Clark-Sims duo clicks, it could mark the beginning of one of the most electrifying backcourts in WNBA history. The moment news of Sims' signing broke, WNBA Twitter, or X, as some call it, lit up like wildfire. Fever fans flooded timelines with mixed emotions. On one hand, there's genuine excitement at the idea of adding a proven veteran to help Caitlin Clark shoulder the load. On the other, some worry that bringing in such a strong on-court personality could disrupt the delicate chemistry of a young team still finding its identity. Sports talk shows and podcasts wasted no time dissecting the move. Some analysts praised it as a masterstroke, pointing out that the Fever desperately needed an aggressive slasher who can get to the rim at will, something Sims has done her whole career. Others questioned if this was a knee-jerk reaction to Clark's recent struggles and whether it might create unnecessary pressure on both players to deliver instant results. Then there's the social media wild card. Memes, highlight clips, and even speculative Sims versus Clark debates have been going viral. It's clear that the basketball world will be watching every dribble, every high five, and every side-eye exchange between these two stars. And with the playoffs approaching, the stakes have never been higher. With the postseason looming, the Fever's signing of Odyssey Sims feels less like a gamble and more like a bold statement. They're all in. The team has been hovering on the playoff bubble, and the front office clearly believes that adding a player with Sims' experience could be the final piece to push them over the edge. The question is, will it click in time? Integrating a veteran midseason can be tricky. There's chemistry to build, roles to define, and egos to balance, all under the unforgiving glare of the playoff race. But if Sims can provide that burst of energy off the bench, create easy scoring opportunities, and take some of the defensive attention off Caitlin Clark, the Fever could become a far more dangerous team overnight. Still, there's no guarantee this experiment will succeed. Will Sims adapt to the Fever's pace and space style? Will Clark thrive with the extra help? Or will there be growing pains? And perhaps most importantly, can this sudden roster shakeup be the spark that finally ignites Indiana's playoff run? One thing is certain, Every game from here on out will be must-watch basketball.